Suspense is a thrilling, unnerving feeling of anticipation. The story poses a question such as, what's that? Where's the villain? Will the hero survive? And then in the interim, while waiting to discover the answer, the audience, just like the characters, endure high levels of excitement, fear, and stress. The clearest and most common example is when a dangerous killer is coming to attack an innocent victim. We physically see them coming, and so does the character, so they need to run and hide. And we then wait in paralyzing pin-drop silence to figure out whether the killer is going to find them or not. In recent memory, I can't think of a better example for mastering cinematic suspense than Jordan Peele's Nope. Peele's stated influences for the film were Jaws, Alien, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and No Country for Old Men. And from these influences alone, we can see that he was aiming high, aspiring to create something tense, adventurous, and memorable. Now, if you haven't seen Nope, I highly recommend you do, especially before watching this video, as there are going to be some spoilers, even though I'm not trying to give anything major away. As I said, suspense is a game of questions and answers. Some of that is built into the direction, and some of it is present in the writing itself. Unlike a slasher movie, where we tend to know more than the victims, Nope is a sci-fi mystery. So when unusual things start happening, we're just as confused as the characters. Why is debris falling from the sky? Why are there power outages? What's going on at the local theme park? All of these questions will be answered in the first half of the movie, before giving us new questions to wonder about in the second half. That's just good writing. But what's impressive is that Peele ensures that the answers to certain questions only up the stakes further and consistently finds new ways to create suspense. For example, an original question was, why are there power outages? And the answer is that the alien's magnetic field disables the electricity around it. But because the alien also camouflages itself in the sky, this adds a whole new level of danger. Now every time the power goes out, the stress begins, because we may not be able to see the threat, but we know it's coming. In the same way Jurassic Park found an iconic way to foreshadow the T-Rex, or Jaws had John Williams' famous score, Nope has its own calling card, the drop in electricity. It does take time to understand the rules of this world, but Peele finds unique ways to ensure the audience's knowledge pays off. Let's take this sequence as an example. After a close call with the alien, OJ's car finally starts working again, so he drives it up to the house slowly. Then the car cuts out again, so we know there's now an active threat in the air. However, the other van is still blaring music, so we know that it's in a safe zone, but Emerald and Angel don't, as they're inside the house. So OJ opens the van door to release the sound so they know it's safe to run. But then once they do, the creature approaches and we hear this. The sound design in this movie is impeccable. Now Peele could have just cut the noise entirely and had them run away with exciting music like any other traditional disaster movie, but that wouldn't be as suspenseful. So instead, the blaring music slowly dies off until nothing is left but the haunting beeping sounds fizzling out. This sound is communicating multiple things at the same time. It's measuring OJ's hopes of escaping dwindling, it's also a countdown to danger, and it's also the alien's focus honing in on him now. This creates a feeling of impending doom. You're waiting for the monster to attack, and the longer you have to wait, the more tension builds, and the harder it is to tolerate the suspense. Spielberg mastered this in Jaws, finding new creative ways of creating suspense without physically showing the shark. Knowing it's there but not knowing where is a great way of engaging the audience, so that each passing second feels like an eternity. Suspense is all about timing, what to show or tell the audience, and when to reveal it. This is present from the very beginning of the movie. Peele sets the scene with a haunting intro that shows us the duality of spectacle.
There's a gift!
Here you go, Gordon. Happy birthday.
But he doesn't give us all the information. He leads with the happy sounds of a scripted show being performed in front of a live studio audience. And then with the click of a finger, we cut to the sound of violent thudding. Now after making us feel something just using sound, he finally releases a visual, a thrashed set with a body on the floor and a shoe perfectly upright, as if it's presenting itself to us. So from the opening, Peele is making us feel unease. The quick switch from everything is happy to the raw reality of horror subconsciously sends the signal to the viewer that we shouldn't get too comfortable in this story, as things can turn on a dime. Then when we finally see something, he's still not showing us all the details, so our imaginations are forced to fill in the blanks. But the feeling of danger is clear, even if we can't see the threat. And that's because the sound design is so layered and all-encompassing. We can hear thudding, we can hear crying, which subtly informs us that someone is hiding, and we can hear strained breathing as someone struggles to stay alive. This makes our minds play catch-up, and we naturally start asking questions. Once we know what's going to happen, then the uncertainty is gone, and the tension is released. But even the way he closes the intro maximizes the suspense. He visually reveals the threat, and just lets us watch him as we hide under the table. And then bang, he spots us, no escape. An immediate feeling of fear and dread washes over us, and then cut to black. No need to answer any questions, as that will only cut the tension, and Peele wants to carry it over to the next scene. So every step of the intro is a creative choice. Give the audience this, but don't give them that. Not yet. And then once we've given them enough to feel terror, cut to black. Now given the alien only attacks you if you look directly at it, this theme allows Peele to play with the divide between what we can hear and what we can see. And how, even if we don't know precisely what's happening, the sound of it can be just as horrifying. For example, the victim's screams can be heard as the creature flies around, screams of joy and terror happening simultaneously, like a theme park ride. But after the alien devours a TMZ reporter and OJ looks away to avoid being sucked up too, we can hear the reporter's echoing torture as it passes by. Which is actually an interesting detail about the entire movie. We experience the suspense before the violence and the traumatic silence in the aftermath, but we aren't ever visually exposed to the violent details. Something so many horror movies get wrong is putting the primary focus on gore and what precisely happens to each victim. Sure, those details may make our stomach churn, but the feeling of being in danger and not being able to escape is much higher than the fear of seeing gory violence. The way to build suspense is to create a threat and then simply let the audience wait for it to happen. Just like Hitchcock explained the difference between a surprise and suspense. In a surprise, the audience think everything is normal and then a bomb goes off. But if they know there's a bomb under the table that's going to go off at a precise time, unbeknownst to the characters, then they start participating in the scene for as long as it lasts. This is the difference between intensely engaging an audience for 15 seconds versus 15 minutes. So in the case of Nope, Peele traps a character in a situation and then lets them listen to the sound of approaching danger, unable to do anything about it. It's all about anticipation, just like we see when he continues his opening scene. He now shows us the happy TV footage for over a minute. He never rushes anything, as the intro already captured the sinister result, making all the prelude more eerie. He then cuts to black once the attack starts, again electing to just let us experience the sound of the threat. He doesn't stop there though. Remember, the more time we wait, the more suspense, so to me this is masterful. Now he cuts to another perspective of the same horrifying events, as a camera slowly tracks in for almost a minute, showing the full abandoned set, and as he passes by, we have a look through the window. We see movement, we hear noises, but that's all we get. If he shows us everything all at once, we can stop asking questions because now we have our answers. And notice how, instead of music, we hear the sound of an alarm ringing in the background. You may not even really register it, it's not too in your face, but it is present, which changes the feeling of the scene even more. Every new layer of audio is placed there for a reason. It's another ingredient of the recipe that heightens our awareness. These long drawn out scenes remind me of Ridley Scott's Alien when Brett is searching for the cat. The search lasts for a full 4 minutes, but after the first minute, Ridley fades in the background sound effect of a heartbeat. We don't really register it, as in general there's so much machinery moving on the ship that we assume it's just that. But this is a subtle way of ratcheting up the suspense more and more as the scene leads us to its inevitable conclusion. Compare that to Peele's scene, in which OJ sees a light go on and goes looking in the barn late at night. We hear a water hose spitting water around the barn. He shuts it off, which turns off the light and the water. 22 tense seconds of him walking back in silence, before boom, the lights and water spring back on. The suspense deepens as now questions begin to spring to mind. What or who is in here with him? And now this is brilliant. Instead of a horror soundtrack, as the alien figure slowly emerges from the shadows, the hose releases a squeal that acts in place of horror music. We hear it again, and then immediately after there's a second squeal in a slightly different tone to introduce the second alien. The increased number of squeals corresponding with the increased number of threats is audibly communicating that the problem is growing out of control and raises the suspense. Then OJ steps back to film it on his phone, and very slowly, over 27 seconds, the alien gradually peeps its head out. And now Peele adds another layer of audio with actual music on top of the sound of the hose to build up our focus on this one alien. But it turns out it's classic misdirection, and then the final squeaking sound crescendos the suspense. And now all our questions are answered. It's just kids playing around. This is excellent filmmaking. Each visual and audio element is working together in tandem. It's just suspense done right. And it's important to remember that all of these little details didn't happen by accident. They're intentional creative decisions that Jordan Peele made. The decision to cut away, the decision to stay, the decision to cut to black, to see or not see, to hear or not hear. And they all come together to create a truly unique experience that keeps you both engaged and on the edge of your seat. If you enjoy content like this and want to see more of it, please do consider supporting me on Patreon, as it really does make a difference to how much content I can pump out. Or if you can't afford that, then simply like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment down below to help the algorithm do its thing.